You know, from the moment we're born, the whole world becomes our classroom. Sometimes its lessons are happy, sometimes they're tragic. But it's fortunate and yet kind of scary that we individuals can so often determine just whether those lessons are going to be happy or tragic. See, we can shape our own destiny. We can affect the lives of people around us. Now, how do we do that? By first recognizing the responsibility to act and then taking action. Now, that's not as easy as it may seem, because first we have to see a situation which has changed or is maybe changing for the worst. We then have to question. We have to question to determine the effect and impact of that change. We must then reason. Reason to determine what we should do. Now, it's then, and only then, that we can take appropriate action. This burnt out school is our classroom today. It has a story to tell. It's a tragic story. But it's a story which emphasizes the individual's responsibility to act. Now, as it unfolds, ask yourself this: how could this tragedy have been prevented? I mean, who could have seen, questioned, reasoned, and acted to change what happened here? This is the model of the school which caught fire one December day.
Our school had three buildings: the auditorium, the house where some of the staff and the housekeeper lived, and the school itself. It was a U-shaped two-story brick building with a basement. This was known as the North Wing. It was built in 1910, but was converted to a school in 1949. On the top floor of the South Wing was the principal's office. This was the annex, and at the back of the annex was a steel fire escape leading from the top story to the ground. Here, at the front, was an iron picket fence which was about 8 feet high and had an access gate which was always kept locked.
Since most of our story focuses on the top floor of the North Wing, let's take a closer look at it.
The top floor was divided into 6 classrooms. A pair of doors separated the corridor from the front staircase. On that December day, these doors were open, wedged open. There was no door separating the corridor from the rear staircase on the top level. However, on the ground floor, there was a fire-stop steel door. On that day, this door was closed.
Many of the teachers in the North Wing had complained of noise from the other classrooms, so the school had installed acoustic tiles in both the classrooms and the corridor. These acoustic tiles had a cellulose base and were highly flammable. There was a lot of wood in the building, and finally, there was a fire alarm in the North Wing. It was manually operated, situated about 2 meters at 6 feet above the floor, and it used 2 ordinary electric light switches, both of them unmarked. That's the setting. So far, what might you have seen, questioned, reasoned, and acted to change? And what would you have done? But what did happen on that December afternoon?
At 2 o'clock, the 329 students in the 6 classrooms on the top floor of the North Wing were just starting their last hour's work. At about 2:10, a fire started at the bottom of the rear stairs in the basement.
Whilst the exact cause of the fire has never been established, The investigation following the fire turned up a partially burned bundle of newspapers, some old exam books, and other combustibles at the bottom of the staircase.
The fire burned undetected for 15 minutes. At about 2:25, the maintenance man, who had been working a block away, passed by the school and saw smoke coming from a ground floor window. He went to investigate and discovered the fire. Rather than sounding the alarm, he ran to the staff house and told the housekeeper to call the fire department. It was now around 2:27. The fire department did not receive the call until 2:42, 17 minutes after the fire was discovered. At 2:30, two children left room 206 in the annex carrying a wastepaper basket down to the incinerator in the basement. They went through the door to the north wing, and as they approached the staircase, they smelled smoke and heard a loud crackling noise. They ran by the alarm and back to their classroom and told their teacher what they had seen. The teacher went next door to ask the teacher in room 207 what should be done. That teacher left her class and went down the corridor to the south wing in search of the principal. The principal was not in her room, having had to substitute teach that afternoon. The teacher ran back to her classroom, and the two teachers decided to evacuate their classes by the back fire escape. When all of the students were safely in the auditorium, one of the teachers returned to the school and sounded the alarm. It was now 2:42.
That's 12 minutes after the children had seen the fire. Let's spin the clock back and see what had happened to that fire. It had burned undiscovered until the intense heat had broken a window at ground level. This allowed the smoke to billow outside the building. It was this smoke that the maintenance man had seen. The fire tried to enter the ground floor but was kept out by the closed steel door. So the fire raced up the rear staircase, and since at the top there was no door to stop it, the flames roared along the ceiling of the corridor, devouring the acoustic tiles and bursting into the classrooms. Finding the smoke-stop doors at the end of the corridor wedged open, the fire and smoke quickly filled the front staircase, making exit that way impossible.
When the fire crews arrived, a major obstacle was the high picket fence. No one could find the key to the locked gate, so they tore the fence down. Now the crews could start rescuing those trapped and battle the fire. Meanwhile, ladders were put up to every window on the top story. Firefighters raced up them and, to save precious time, started dropping those trapped to colleagues below, who caught them or broke their fall. At 2:55, the roof of the north wing fell in onto the classroom.
Now, when the roof falls in on a burning building, it's kind of like the piston of a motor car engine. Displaces all the hot gases with explosive force. Now, the effect of this explosion was to blow the fire crews who were fighting the fire at front and rear down the staircase. It also ended the chance for survival of anyone left in the classroom. Now, the tragedy was complete. That's the story. It really happened. But did it have to? Were there people who should have recognized their responsibility to act? Were there opportunities to see that things weren't going right? The question, what if a fire should break out? To reason, yes, things are hazardous, very hazardous, and should be changed. It's possible that some people did see, question, and reason, but they failed to take the most important step of all, the only step which could have avoided the tragic outcome. They failed to act. Maybe they copped out by saying, hey, it's not my job, or somebody else will do that. Or, yeah, but that can wait. But what if somebody had acted to remove, change, or simply report the situation? Take a minute to think about that and discuss what action could have been taken. Let's review the situation, which over several years had led up to the tragic climax. As we do, ask yourself who should have recognized the responsibility to act? The architect, the housekeeper, the maintenance man, the school board, the parents, the students, and the teachers. In converting the building into a school, no door had been installed to separate the top corridor from the rear stairs. This allowed the fire to spread to the classrooms and the front stairs, so blocking any exit. 2 fire alarms were left unmarked and put 6 feet from the ground. Who knew what they were? Who wondered and never asked? The high iron fence was locked with no key readily available. It cost precious time to rip it down. These acoustic tiles did cut down the noise, but they also gave the fire a perfect material to feed on. And as the fire devoured the tiles, it changed the cellulose into a poisonous, asphyxiating gas, which took its toll of those trapped. There had been a gradual build-up of junk, papers, old exam books, at the bottom of the rear staircase where the fire had probably started. The critical smoke-stop doors were wedged open, and yet over half of the people in the north wing must have passed by them that day without seeing, questioning, reasoning, and shutting them. During that last critical hour, some people saw and acted. But did they think? Did they reason first so that they could take the best possible action? The maintenance man, he saw the smoke and then ran to tell the housekeeper to call the fire department. He never sounded the fire alarm. The housekeeper, who for whatever reason delayed her call to the fire department by 17 minutes. 2 children discovered the fire and ran to tell their teacher rather than sounding the alarm or simply yelling, "Fire!" The teacher from 207 went looking for the principal, then took time to evacuate the classes of 206 and 207 before sounding the alarm. Why have I told you this story? Because it's not just a story about a school and fire. It's a story about human attitude. It's a story about the individual's responsibility to act. And since we can all see, question, reason, and take action, then it's our story and it's our responsibility. Perhaps the lessons we've learned in this classroom can be useful in our daily classrooms, the places we live and work. Let me show you what I mean. There's Joe. He might even be you. He's doing his job just like normal, but he's doing it wrong. He isn't bending his knees, and he isn't asking for help with some of those objects.
Hello? Yes, I think I have that number. No, it's not here. Wait a minute.
There's Sylvia.
Here it is.
Again, she might be you.
84.
She's being barraged with force.
Goodbye. Hello? Yes, I'll be right in.
Hey, Fred, I heard you got a new piano. Is that right?
Well, it's an old 40-year-old grand.
What's it look like?
Well, it's an old Stager. There's Elizabeth,
Huh.
or possibly you. Nothing's gone right for her this morning. Boy, she really needs a coffee break.
I can't believe what's been happening today. Nothing's going right. What's the matter? Oh, look at this burn I got. Oh, did you? I'd say next slab. And then I tripped coming out of my car. Well, I can't believe everything. Well, that's great.
No, we didn't see another fire. We just saw what we see every day. And that's the problem. Because we get complacent about the things we see every day. In fact, we see them only with our eyes. We have to see them with our brains before we can question what if. What if Joe or I continue to lift incorrectly? What if someone doesn't see and avoid that cord? Or that spilled coffee? Or what if a fire broke out and those doors are wedged open? But let's suppose someone did see and did question what if, but came up with cop-out reasoning like this.
Heck, he's just doing his job. It's not my business how he does it.
Or if you're Joe, you might use this bit of reasoning.
Yeah, I know I'm not doing this right, but I've never hurt myself before. As long as I do my job, who cares?
Sylvia shouldn't leave that cord like that, but I'm sure anyone who goes through there will see it.
Sylvia might think.
Oh, I'm only going to be gone for a couple of minutes.
And all the people who saw that spill and walked by, reasoning,
That's janitorial job.
If I saw it and avoided it, so will everyone else.
or the maintenance man who saw the smoke but didn't sound the alarm, possibly also reasoning that somebody else would do it. Well, somebody else did, 17 minutes later. At the inquest, the fire chief said all we needed was a couple of minutes more. That's what the report said. These are some other accident reports. Do you really believe what they say? What do you think was the real cause? And what would be your recommendation? Injuries, back, ruptured disc. Cause, improper lifting. Recommendation, increase lifting training. Injury, broken wrist. Cause, tripped over cord. Recommendation, don't allow cords between desks. Injury, serious concussion, condition stable. Cause, slipped and fell on spilled coffee. Recommendation, increase frequency of janitorial inspection near vending area. Did any of this need to have happened? Oh, sure, you and I can't stop the coffee from spilling. Just like the fire might have started despite the greatest of precautions. But did all these incidents have to turn out the way they did? Isn't everyone who walked by that spilled coffee without doing anything just as guilty of contributing to the serious concussion of the victim as the person who spilled it? There's a phrase we use when we know we should have acted and didn't. We say, if only I had.
If only I had followed the proper lifting procedures.
If only I had moved that phone.
If only I had. How many people said that on that bleak December day? Doesn't it strike you that if only one person had recognized their responsibility to act and had taken action, this tragedy might never have happened? Would you have been that one person who could have changed the outcome if you'd been there? Would you have questioned the cellulose tiles, that unmarked fire alarm, the chained fence without a readily available key? Would you have acted to close those smoke-stop doors, to sound the alarm, to call the fire department? Or would you have been one of those people who said, if only I had? We're offered the opportunity to see, question, reason, and act every minute of every day. When it's offered to you, what will you do?